All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Legacy Running Podcast. I am joined by Neal Palles, the licensed psychotherapist and mental performance consultant. Hi, Neal. How are you?
I'm doing great, Sarah. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to learn from you. I don't think that we have had anyone like you on the podcast. So I'm just excited
Okay,
to see what you're going to say.
awesome. Well, dig in, ask me questions. I'm psyched to be here, even though I'm not in the state of Washington. I'm here in Colorado.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, let's dig in.
Let's do it. So, can you first off start with telling us a little bit about yourself just personally and then kind of get into what you do professionally as well?
Yeah, personally. So it's all the blend, right?
Yeah.
But I am a runner, a mountain biker, an outdoor athlete, a mountain athlete. I like to call it myself. I've been a mountain athlete since high school, which was a long time ago.
Mhm.
We're talking since the late 80s, early 90s. I kind of fell into this outdoor world, rock climbing and mountaineering, late in high school, and fell in love with it. I was running at the time too. Fell in love with it, and I took this program called Outward Bound in North Carolina and
Oh, cool.
backpacked for about 20 days, and left that in high school. Said to myself, I wanted to be an Outward Bound instructor, and
Nice.
so went out to Oregon, went to school at Oregon, got an undergrad in psychology, but mostly it was outdoor education, and learned to become an outdoor leader. And so I ended up working for Outward Bound right out of college. Worked in Oregon and California for a while, and then ended up working out here in Colorado. Um, and just fell in love with helping people find a little bit more about themselves.
Mhm.
Finding a little bit more about resilience um, through adversity, through challenging experiences that you experience in the outdoors.
Yeah.
And along the way, I decided I wanted to become a social worker, licensed clinical social worker, and because I wanted to help people at a more in-depth level, and dove into that. But there was always this inkling in the back of my mind: is how do I help people, you know, in these adventure sports, or how do I help people, in team sports? The Chicago Bulls. I went to school at a time when the Chicago Bulls were winning every game,
Yeah.
and I was really fascinated with the psychology behind that. And then I saw this connection to everything I did. Um, and eventually, it took a while. I decided to get a degree in applied sports psychology for a couple years. I want to say a couple years back. It seems like it's longer than that now. Um, and yeah, fell in love with it. So I coach ultra runners on the side.
Mhm.
Um, I'm an ultra runner myself. I think I mentioned before we got started, I'm going to be running the Leadville 100 in a couple of weeks. I'm going to do the Leadville 100 mountain bike in a couple of weeks. So I'm doing this whole Leadville race series that goes back to back. Um, and yeah, and yeah, that's kind of who I am. I'm a dad. I have a daughter who just started cross country in high school, and I have two wonderful Labrador retrievers that are kind of crazy. So,
Nice. That really is.
yeah.
I did not know that piece about Outward Bound. Is that um what is that? What is Outward
What
Bound?
is Outward Bound? Okay. So Outward Bound started back in Great Britain in the late 19 or the early 1940s, and came to the United States in the early 1960s. And the idea was at that time was to take youth into a challenging environment: rock climbing, mountaineering, backpacking with a bunch of complete strangers.
Wow.
And the idea is that you're going to develop some skills: self-reliance, physical fitness, compassion, craftsmanship, and challenge through this challenging experience. And you're also develop leadership skills.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you look at it, it's building resilience,
Mhm.
and there is a transference of the experience to your everyday life. And we try to do that on every course. Go, okay, what could you take from this? What could you take from, this rock climb today, or this peak ascent? We'd climb a peak and come back, and we debrief it and talk about it. And it was so powerful to see the people's development, individual development and group development during that time. That was my where my interest in sports psychology came from.
Yeah.
So, but they have programs all around the world. They're based here in the United States. They have programs in Colorado, Minnesota, California, Oregon, Washington, Maine, and smaller programs in individual cities that they'll run urban programs too. So I haven't worked in a number of years, but I'm still connected, and it's such a phenomenal program for me to go through, and then to work for them for a number of years too. Even once I established my career, I would take vacation time to do these week-long courses working with families. So we'd have a parent and a child on these courses, and such a powerful experience.
That is so cool. I can totally see just the way that you like get to learn about other people and like learn
Yeah.
about yourself. I just think to like my own experiences outside, like the ways that different people react to different outdoor situations. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I want you on my team. Or like in the future, if this happens, like I don't know if I want you to be the person that's like digging me out of this crevasse or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And well, it's everyone kind of learning how to deal with different people too,
Yeah. Yeah.
and going, okay, how do I, deal with this situation that's really challenging, which you get in team sports. You get in baseball, you get in football, and you get even in cross country, or track. You have to learn to deal with the different styles that you'll run into, and that's where kind of the applied sports psychology can come in too. And that's how we dealt with it in those groups, because there were definitely groups that they didn't like each other, but
Yeah.
they certainly learned how to perform well.
Yeah.
And so that was fun.
That is huge. So you touched on it a little bit, but how did you become passionate about working with athletes, specifically mountain athletes? I feel like that's kind of your big thing.
Yeah, I mean, mountain athletes, runners. I, being a mountain athlete myself,
Yeah.
I think you, you know, you run into problems along the way.
Yeah.
That stuff happens. There's different traumas. As a runner, it was the injuries. I think I mentioned to you, I had some hip problems. I had some Achilles issues
Yeah.
years ago, and I was really intensely wanting to qualify for Boston,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden I was out of it for almost 3 years. And, when you drive and keep driving at it, that's when you keep staying in that injury cycle. And, that was really hard for me at that time. And that, my interest was already there, because I saw the connection to the team sports
Mhm.
like basketball, just watching basketball, or, go, wow, what is the psychology behind this? Or mountaineering.
Mhm.
So going back to Outward Bound, the
Yeah.
year after I took an Outward Bound course in high school, I'm a senior in high school, and we have to write the senior paper, and we're learning how to do this research paper. And I wrote a paper called The Psychology of Mountaineering.
Oh my gosh.
And it was it was prophetic, I mean, it was just like this, how did I end up here? That's how I ended up here. And it's interesting, if I think I could still remember parts of what I wrote and where I was looking for things, research and how I talked about things. And I talked about self-belief, and I talked about kind of individual self-talk. And this is back in the late mid 1980s that I was doing this. And that was always in the back of my mind.
Nice.
And I was always interested how these teams evolved on the mountains. And yeah, so that's how I kind of went through this circuitous route. And after I got my social work degree, it was like always in the back of my mind, what is this sports psychology thing? There wasn't a lot out there. And then I get onto Twitter and social media, and I'm like, wow, there's all these cool sports psychologists, and start following them. And then there was
Yeah.
a program, and I started investigating programs, and they costed a fortune.
Yeah.
And plus you have a family. How do you go back to school and do all that? And the closest program was, an hour drive away. And I was like, that won't work, and going to school full time. So finally I found one online programs started opening up, and found an online program through a program at Adams State University here in Colorado. And I was like, yeah, it's a close university. They're runners there.
Yeah.
That'll be a good group to tap into. And it was, and so that's how I got here.
That's awesome. I love those like early stages of like, yeah, it's like totally prophetic that these are things that are going to come up in the future and make full circle.
Yeah.
In your practice, you offer two main services, so psychotherapy and then mental performance consultations. Can you touch on like what are the differences between those, and how do you make your magic happen there?
How do I make the magic happen? So I kind of draw two circles.
Yeah.
And one is psychotherapy. One is mental performance. Fortunately and unfortunately, we're full human beings, right? And
Yeah,
so these circles definitely overlap. So
totally.
psychotherapy, I like to think of is the full person. This is what's going on at home. This is what's going on at work, school. It could be someone who is experiencing some depression or anxiety or recent trauma,
Mhm.
a loss, personal loss. It could be an injury. A lot of times I will kind of move people who are, hey, I'm coming for an injury. This is affecting your full psyche here.
Yeah,
Um, where some people may say, well, that's just performance. In my view, under my licensure, that's going to be psychotherapy.
yeah.
Where performance coaching is if you wanted to just use mental skills to get better at your sport.
Mhm.
How do I use this little edge? We go and we lift weights, and or we go see a registered dietitian to eat a little bit better. How could I use my mind a little bit differently?
Cool.
Now, yeah, there's a little bit of overlap, but if there's a huge overlap, like my identity is completely wrapped up in running
Mhm.
and it is affecting me personally, and I'm having thoughts of hurting myself or something like that, that's going to be psychotherapy.
Mhm.
Um, and anyone shouldn't be working with a coach at that point. They should be working with a psychotherapist.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, that's how I divide it up. The consultation is coaching.
yeah,
It is mental performance coaching. It's kind of there's a lot of terms for it. You'll hear people say mental strength coaching, mental performance coaching, mental performance consultations. There is I want to say a governing body. There's a program or a group called the Association for Applied Sports Psychology
mhm.
that I'm a member of. And in order to become a certified mental performance consultant, you have to have at least 400 hours of their mentored work. You
Wow.
have to have an exam. It's a national exam, so it's not, here's something you take online.
Right.
You have to study for this,
Yeah.
um, and you have to have 50 hours of mentorship, and that's with someone who's also a certified mental performance consultant. I am like just hours away right now of wrapping that up and starting to begin to study for that exam. So, and it's been years, and it takes some people years, and some people just don't do it because people don't know what that certified mental performance consultant is.
Yeah.
But I want to emphasize that it just demonstrates that we actually did the work.
Yeah.
Um, we studied, we've got mentored. Um, it's a lot different than psychotherapy. You've got to be able to understand what those differences are and how to work with people, just specifically as athletes. You can't just come at it as an athlete.
Yeah.
I could, some people do. Um,
Yeah.
and I wanted to have these skills. I wanted to have this to demonstrate that I've done the work.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really enjoy, like, I just believe you're working with an amazing practitioner when they have this like whole picture lens of, okay, we do this consultation and then I like assess the client and I say, okay, even though you're asking for mental performance coaching, the way that you're, coming at this is actually maybe psychotherapy. And it's actually not valid for me to give you mental performance coaching because this is a bigger problem.
Exactly.
Opposite way where it's like, hey, you're actually doing amazing. I actually think you would just do well with this mental performance coaching to be
Right.
able to do whatever.
Right. And I'll work with people if they're working with they've worked with a psychotherapist,
Mhm.
and they're feeling better. They're still working with that psychotherapist. They can come and work with me and do mental performance coaching. There's a lot of psychotherapists who don't know anything about this. And so that's why, yeah, come work with me, and I'm happy to work with you.
Mhm.
As long as I see that it's appropriate. If there's things that haven't been addressed and it's really this overlapping thing, then I'm going to say, hey, why don't you work with your psychotherapist for a bit longer?
Mhm.
Um, and then you can come to me, or you can come to me and do the mental performance, and maybe we get a release of information. And that I'm talking to the psychotherapist and making sure that we're not overlapping too much, and I'm just doing performance. Or if there's something I need to be concerned about,
Yeah.
I would do that. But it's and that's where it can get challenging. If I see someone, I'm working with someone on mental performance for a while, and
Mhm.
they say, and I'm noticing this is really kind of becoming is a mental health issue, I'm going to refer them to somebody else, because I can't have that dual relationship with that person.
Yeah, that's huge.
No.
What are some examples, or like, can you give me one example of each category? So someone who would come to you that would be best for psychotherapy, or an example of a scenario you would work through for mental health or mental coaching. I didn't say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, mental performance. So mental performance work is great. I mean, someone who wants to, for example, ultra running,
Yeah.
they get to the starting line and they may have like that feeling of being an imposter. Maybe they're really competitive
Mhm.
and they just feel like an imposter, or they get really, they don't want, they lose that drive after being passed by somebody,
Yeah.
or I don't want to say toughness, because it's not toughness. It is, there's a lot of different components that go into that.
Yeah.
But it's, it could be, just performance anxiety, just getting to the starting line.
Yeah.
You know, it could be something like sleeping before a race. Now,
Wow.
if it's like all life encompassing, that's more psychotherapy. But if it's just like, I don't feel well before a race, I get nervous before a race, that would be more mental performance work.
Wow.
Um, the I like it when it's a competitive athlete and they're just trying to find different tools to behave differently. And this is the one thing that I like to focus on is how how are you behaving? What do you want your behavior to look like
Mhm.
during your sport? How do you want to how do you want to behave? And so you have choices along the way. Your mind is going to push you around a lot. It's going to say slow down. It is going to say, don't do this, don't show up today.
Mhm.
And how do you want to behave? And so we're learning how to kind of accept some of that stuff that is coming at you. And all right, this is what's going on. All right, I'm going to go and push myself regardless of this right now.
Cool.
Or I'm going to go through my list and take care of myself on my ultra and still push myself.
Yeah.
Um, where psychotherapy, um, yes, I apologize. You had asked about, what it would look like for psychotherapy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, could be someone just saying, I am really anxious at work. I'm really anxious running. I'm really, I've had panic attacks, and
Yeah.
that's like, okay, let's talk about this as psychotherapy,
Mhm.
or, there was just an accident in the mountains,
Mhm.
and this isn't going to just affect you as an athlete. This is going to affect you all around.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, you could see performance is going to affect you as a person, but there's a little bit more leeway there. It's like, this is coaching. I'm going to give you skills, more educational and coaching.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I am reminded of, I took a sports psychology class in my undergrad, and
Hmm.
my professor was a collegiate athlete, and he said that one of his classmates or his teammates, before he was a swimmer, before his races, would lay on a cot and put a towel over his face and just
Yeah.
basically, and that's what everyone
Yeah.
thought he was doing. And he would always place in the top three. And what they realized was he was he was visualizing himself swimming the race before the race happened, and
Yes.
he did.
Yes.
So that's what I feel like that
Yep.
mental coaching is like, where it's
Exactly. And you could use, I mean, you definitely could use some of that in psychotherapy. There's definitely, you could use imagery in psychotherapy. You could use mindfulness in psychotherapy, and there's definitely overlap of skills. But yeah, imagery before a race. I try and have people imagine, if you can't, and you're running 100 miles, you're at night, you can't necessarily see your competitors ahead of you. Imagine them. Imagine them pulling you forward.
wow.
Using some of that imagery. I mean, you've seen pictures or of Mike. You described the swimmer, and that was a perfect example of these. I've seen Michael Phelps. He's got the hoodie on. He's got listened to his music,
Yeah.
and it looks like the other guy's trying to stare him down, but he's really, at least my understanding of what he was doing, was using imagery, or he was really kind of in depth thinking about his race, figuring out what that looks like, what that feels like. Imagery is really a cool thing. I learned about that in the outdoor world,
Yeah.
learning how to kayak, and I would watch a video of people rolling their kayak. And then I sat there, closed my eyes, and visualized or create this image of myself rolling my kayak. I got into this position, and then I get into the kayak. And after a few times, I was able to roll it, and it felt exactly like how I pictured it and how it was described to me. And so that's part of how imagery works. So yeah, that's a lot. We do a lot of imagery. We could do a lot of work on self-talk. We could be a lot of mindfulness. Um, it could be a lot of, I do a lot of work through this modality called acceptance commitment therapy,
Mhm.
and that can be used in both psychotherapy and mental performance. And in acceptance commitment therapy, what I'm trying to get people to do is notice your emotions. Be open to your emotions. Your emotions are normal.
Yeah.
These things are, that frustration you feel at an injury, you're supposed to feel that. This is normal. It's what you do with it next.
Mhm.
It's what happens next. Now you could have behaviors that are going to be kind of helpful, and then some behaviors are going to be unhelpful.
Yeah.
And it could be, going to your race injured,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you have seen people do,
Yeah.
and I've heard people do it, they show up and, I'm running with a broken leg,
Yeah.
only time to do that is when you're being chased, that's
Yeah.
not worth it going to the doctor, being injured the rest of your life. Or, um, some people will disagree with me, but I think it's not worth it. And if you think it is, then we should talk. But yeah, so there's behaviors that you can be doing that are going to be helpful and congruent with your values and who you are, what your aspirations are, what your real goals are. And you have to kind of really dial into what that is.
Mhm.
Health being probably one of them. That's why you don't want to run on that broken leg.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I always, for my practice, I am not a classic physical therapy practice. So I do not do like, hey, we're going to pay for 12 sessions together, and that's what we're going to do. I run on a solutions-based model. So
Yeah.
if a client comes to me and they say, I want to get back to running 20 to 25 miles a week, I say, okay, we're going to work together for the next X amount of time ish, and we're going to work together until you hit your goal. So we're always looking at that
Right.
20 25 miles, and it just makes this amazing like connection between like your mind and your action to be like, I'm going to take
Yep.
those appropriate steps to move
Yes.
toward
Yep.
what I want to do, towards what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you've got those goals. You've got to picture what those goals are, what that behavior is, and if you're injured, you should be running, right now, or maybe not completely, or doing things that you can do to help yourself, like all your physical therapy exercises that you've got to do during the day. That's your running right now. That's it.
Yes.
Do that. You
Totally.
know.
Totally. So the other like, or I guess my biggest mission in my practice is I want to like eradicate fear from women that have been diagnosed with hip pain. So I want there to just be like testimony after testimony of people just being like, yeah, I had hip pain, I got through it, and I'm running now. So what would your advice be to someone who's like just diagnosed with hip pain or has hip pain, has been diagnosed with like a labral tear or something? Their recovery is going to take about 4 months for them to get back to like running confidently. What would you say to someone in those shoes?
First of all, I know it's frustrating. I know it's frustrating, and being a guy who's had a labral tear, or diagnosed with labral tears and some hip pain, and it can be up and down. Be where you are right now, where you are today. What you can control today? Look back at your values as a person, okay? Who you are. Okay, so I want to run in 4 months. Okay, what is it that and it may not be 4 months, it may be longer, it may be less, we don't know. Sometimes it is up and down, but being open to the frustration, open to the sadness that's going to come up. You're going to want to be, your brain is going to want to push you into running, into doing something that may not be helpful. So figure out what are the things that are going to be helpful for you right now. Okay. So how do I do this? So your job may be doing your physical therapy exercises for the day. That is your sport right now.
Yeah.
Finding the other parts of you that maybe you could focus on right now too. What are the other parts of you? You're more than just a runner. You're more than just an athlete. Is it playing guitar? Is it, whatever it is, being a family member, putting some energy back into that too. At the same time, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be very frustrated with this. It's going to be up and down. Be open to it. This is the acceptance part. The acceptance doesn't mean laying down and giving up. Doesn't mean, I'm just going to give up on this. This means being open to that discomfort. And then you're going to be, all right, I'm going to do some things that I don't normally do, like, okay, I got to do these exercises.
Yeah.
Maybe I do start a routine with this, and this is my running routine. Instead of, 6:30 getting up and running, I'm going to be 6:30. I'm going to do whatever exercises I've got. We're all going to go in to see Sarah, and I don't know if you do dry needling or whatever you're doing. It's like, I'm going to go see Sarah, working on some things today. And then also exploring those other parts of you. I'm going to keep going back to it is frustrating. Know also that there is a commonality in other people. There's other people out there experiencing the same thing. It's huge. You could actually find groups of injured runners out there on Facebook, connect with them. There are specialists, that work specifically with injured runners if you want to work on the mental piece of it. Sometimes even, doing imagery is really helpful. Sometimes working on your self-talk could be really helpful. These are all little pieces of it, but the biggest piece is being self-compassionate. This is self-compassion has 3 pieces to that. One is self-kindness, just being kind to yourself. How would you treat a friend who's experiencing the same thing? 2 is being mindful, being right here, right now. This is where I am right now with these sensations. It's uncomfortable. And sometimes there's all sorts of weird hip sensations, moves around. It's like, wait a second, this is the hands. What is this? And you got your little cross ball and it's like, okay, it's, be mindful of that, be present with the discomfort, be present. And then also is that common humanity, the commonness in what we are doing. That's all part of self-compassion. You're bringing that in, and then that overlapping is that acceptance. And then commit to your goals. Commit to maybe not your running goals right now, because maybe running Boston in 4 months isn't realistic, but what are those smaller goals to get there? Okay, I need to do these exercises. I need to meet with Sarah. Maybe I need to meet, with a registered dietitian, or, be doing something else right now that I could focus on. Maybe there's cross training I could do too. So.
I love it. I love that piece of the commonality. I think there's so much comfort in finding other people that especially are like you, that have
Totally.
the same thing and are like on the other side and they're like, yeah, I know it's hard, but I'm here. And like if you just stay the course, like I believe that
Totally.
you can get here too.
Totally. Absolutely. And connect with them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh
Yeah.
wait, with social media, I'm like realizing, oh, all these other people have hip pain. It's like I never knew that.
Yeah.
And it's like, why am didn't know if I was going to get to the Boston Marathon, or I, didn't finish the Leadville 100 once or twice because of strange hip pain,
Mhm.
and all right, that's what it is. Figured it out. Worked over a course of 4 or 5 months and was able to come back to it and run some ultras, and don't really have that. It flares up from here to time. You just know what to do.
Yeah, yeah, that's huge. Knowing what to do, and then I guess living through multiple cycles of like it getting better just builds confidence for the future.
Builds confidence in the future. Exactly. Exactly. Let's look back where you were 5, 6 months ago. So injured athletes, I'll say, let's look back a year ago. Where were you?
Yeah,
Yeah, you weren't running. Yeah. So where the other thing is, look under every stone. It's like you keep on
yeah,
running into walls. Sometimes these injuries aren't, not apparent. Maybe there's something else going on,
yeah,
and it could be a nutrition issue. It could be, and I know you're tapped into that. So it could be all these little tiny pieces.
yeah.
Look under every stone, and that's and call people. And sometimes and I don't tell people don't see Sarah. But yeah, get a second opinion,
Oh,
because somebody,
yes.
I've worked with people that, we're going to work over here and just do the same thing all the time. And then I'd go to, this isn't getting better. I go to somebody else and we're, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this is what's going on. And then, there we go. And
Yeah, I'm all about advocating. I mean, I am like oftentimes people's second, third, fourth person that they've been to that
totally,
and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I never knew that this would happen and I've already been to these people." So yeah, even if it's like if I'm your first person like and there's more people to go to, like look under every stone. I love that. It's really
yeah,
good. Um,
absolutely.
anything else that you would like to share about what you do or just from today's conversation that's on your mind?
Yeah, well, I'm based here in Colorado, so I work with Colorado athletes.
Okay.
Um, due to the licensure laws, you know, uh, s- like I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and social workers don't have the reciprocity in the other states. So I have to work here, and yet I stick with that with the mental performance coaching for right now too. Even though that is coaching, I
Yeah.
still have that license hat somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, so. Uh, yeah, I mean, what else do I do? I also am a coach for Carmichael Training Systems, completely separate from my psychotherapy practice. It's totally unrelated. And I coached, I have a group of about 15 ultra runners and marathoners that I coach to. I've had a lot of people, recently qualify for Boston. So I
Awesome.
love having my hat. I love wearing these multiple hats that I could just, put on at any time. And it's just a fun thing to do. I'm on social media, but I'm not on there a lot right now, just because I'm really busy getting ready for the Leadville 100 bike race and mountain and run. So I'm super busy. But yeah, that's what else about me. Yeah, I think thinking about this is, I think anyone could get value out of either psychotherapy or mental performance coaching, and some people may need one or the other. But I think connecting with someone and just talking through things can always, always help. Even if you think you got it and you are the toughest person around,
Yeah.
this it helps just sitting down and processing. I could have a client for 1 or 2 sessions, and that's like that really helped just processing it, and that's okay. That's what we're here for.
That is awesome. And then if we want to get in contact with you, so if we're in Colorado or whatever, we want to get in contact, what's the best way to do it? Is it your website, Instagram?
So yeah, website Colorado Psychotherapy and Sport.com.
Cool.
Um, I mean, did I do that? Yeah, Colorado Psychotherapy and Sport.com. I'm also on Instagram at the same handle at Colorado Psychotherapy and Sport.
Cool.
Yeah, that's where you could find me. That's probably the best way to reach me if you're here in Colorado. And if you have questions and you're on other states, I could at least point you in the right direction. I know a lot of people around the country, and I try to keep as many contacts as I can. So I'm really fortunate to meet you. So I've got a physical therapist in the Seattle area, right?
Yeah, Washington. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll
Awesome.
put your information in the show notes. But other than that, thank you so
Awesome.
much for coming on today. And I just look forward to keep chatting with you online.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Sarah.
Bye, Neil.